Hey, let's go take a garden tour. It is the 1st of June and I've got things growing in the gardens outside and in my tiny containers. So it really doesn't take much space to develop some food resiliency and security. So, just start where you're at. Tiny little spaces to get the skills that you need to have a better and more abundant life for yourself. So hey, let's get started. I am Vicky Manitou Okas, so let's go look at the gardens. All right, so it is the 1st of June and the first of the garden plants went in out here about 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to give you a garden tour with what it looks like right now and what the plans are going forward. So let's start with the old garden. And this was a real mess last fall that I cleaned up as a part of the garden planner workshop, and the garlic was planted last fall and that is beautiful. It is just now putting the scapes up, so you see the scapes right there. They're just starting to pop up, so in very short order, maybe another week, we'll be cutting the scapes off of that, and the garlic will be ready to harvest in about 2 weeks after that. So I've got some here, and look there. that's a strange garlic. I experimented with garlic in a 18-gallon tote. I think that 16-gallon or 18-gallon tote this year, and that is looking gorgeous. So I put six garlics in that tote, and look at that, that's great. So, and then we planted the potatoes. Oh, don't do that. Okay, we planted the potatoes in milk crates with some radishes, and tomorrow I'm going to do some shuffling and move those around, because I am going to plant some tomatoes in the crates that aren't planted and put them next to these poles so that I can trellis the tomatoes and keep them up off the ground so they don't take up as much space. So, and then there's some more of the containers that I planted for myself, and they are looking really good. Let me go take a closer look at that. So there's the tomatoes in the big basket, and there is my grapevine basket. Looks like I need to harvest some mustard, and that's looking good, and the cabbage is looking good. So the roses are healthy, and we're going to plant those up in the next phase of the garden. So let's take a look at the rest of the old garden. This is phase 1. Okay, now this is my bean trellis. So I moved this from the position it was in last year to rotate the beans, and the beans are just starting to come up, so I put the trellis in yesterday, and those are yard-long beans, and I will train those up that trellis and up over, and I've got some more wire that I can put across here if I want to. So this top is open, so I can either put some more wire up here or some string and train the yard-long beans up and over that. And then the next thing to go under here is going to be either some lettuce or some microgreens mix that I just planted. So that will get shaded a little bit by the beans for midsummer harvest. And then I planted my storage onions right here, and they're looking good. So they're on the south side of the trellis, so they'll get plenty of sun. And I will save some of those to make seed next year. And here I've got, and then over here, look at that. That is some of the microgreens mix, actually. So that is, I just took apart the microgreens mix and put plugs into the mulch in the garden, and that is looking really, really good. And then I've got slug traps, and it looks like I need to refill the slug traps. So a slug trap is necessary in this area for almost everything. But and then I just take a cat food can or tuna can and fill that with beer, and I need to replace it every time it rains or when it evaporates. So tomorrow it's going to be time to refill those and catch those slugs. So let's go take a look over at phase 2. Oh, this is the area that hasn't been planted yet, and I'm going to plant a bush bean right here. So this garden is total with the crates is about 3 foot wide and 20 foot long. This is plenty of garden to feed a family for a season, depending upon how you plant it and the things that if you plant it in ways that are very, very productive and use height instead of just having everything flat, it can feed a family. The person that I'm doing this for was more interested in the potatoes and the garlic and the greens, and then we're getting ready to plant the tomatoes and some other stuff right in here. Let's go take a look at phase 2. Okay, here's one of the tomatoes. That's one of the tomatoes that I'm going to plant tomorrow. Right there. Okay, and there's another one. There's a couple more sitting around here that I'm going to plant tomorrow. Over in the main area where we can fence it later. Okay, this is, we just got this. It's a little bit leggy. That is catmint. So I just planted that yesterday. I just planted that about 3 days ago. So I just planted the catmint about 3 days ago, and it's just getting started and established. And once it starts leafing out again, I will cut that back when I'm sure that is established, so that's going to look better and spread nicely. And I put a little tiny tomato plant in there, and there went the tomato again. This is a prairie sage, which loves a little bit drier conditions and well-drained soil. So that is a perfect plant for a raised bed, since that likes that kind of conditions. These PVC towers are the worm towers. So these beds were all seeded with, once I filled it, I took some native earthworms and put in each barrel, plus some of my composting worms and put in there, and then drilled holes in the worm tower, and there's a workshop that I'm doing for that. And then the cap is just a tray from a clay pot, and you put your kitchen scraps inside there. Put that on there, and then the worms go through the holes to eat the kitchen scraps to make nice compost and fertility for the garden going forward. So, and then we've got some thyme. They're just getting started. I just planted those. It's thyme, chamomile, parsley, and some sweet peppers. And then the cherry tomatoes are in that one, and some basil, and those are, man, that has grown a huge amount since I planted those last week. So that's taking off and looking good. So this is phase 1 and phase 2. All of those empty crates right there are going to go up next to the fence when I get that cleaned up and fenced, and those will be some low growing herbs, but right now they're weighting down the cardboard so that we get the grass killed in this area, because she does not want to mow this. Okay, so the less mowing that she has to do, the better it's going to be. I wouldn't put cardboard in a garden, but to kill the grass back under these raised barrels, I don't have a problem with that. So we're working on phase 1 and phase 2 this year, and this is going to be a beautiful, productive garden for her going forward. And unfortunately, I am still fighting with the blackberries in the phase 1 garden, but it's much better than it was last year. Just a matter of keeping on top of it and cutting them out as soon as they pop up. And that's my job for tomorrow, is to pick up the old crates that are still there and clean that up, and make sure that all the blackberries are out of the phase 1 garden, so that that's ready for the fence. And then the roses are going to go right in through here with phase 2, and about right here where I'm at on this bare spot, we're going to put I'm going to cut some barrels apart, and this is going to be another row of gardens for her. And this is just a tiny, tiny backyard, and it is going, when we get done, it is going to be so productive with perennials in this area here, and her annual garden inside of a fence, so that she has food security going forward, no matter what the society does. So, and that is so important anymore with the supply chains and food chains fracturing. It's going to be, if you don't grow some of your own food, at least, it may be very difficult to find and afford some of the things that you want, that you're used to having. So, and then the rest of my tiny gardens are weighing down the... Let's go take the rest of my tiny gardens in the pots. So, most of my gardens are in containers, and they all need watered right now, so we'll do that tomorrow. But this is the one that this is one that I love doing and playing with, is old pair of jeans, and that's looking pretty good. And we already looked at the basket. And then my sage plants. Okay, there's the sage plant, that one of the sage plants that I planted earlier. And the other one is right here. And we have squirrels. Look what the squirrels did to my sage plant. But it's coming back. So I got to figure out how to tell the squirrels to go. Look at that poor sage plant. I gotta tell the squirrels squirrels to go someplace else to eat. And then there's my oregano. So, and a beautiful oregano in a pasta pot. So there we go. It is so easy to grow food in tiny little spaces. And in that 5-gallon bucket over there, see that 5-gallon bucket? That is another. That's another prairie sage. So we've got a prairie sage for my friend for her garden, and I got a prairie sage for me to put in a 5-gallon bucket, and they are both doing beautifully. So there we go. There's the garden tour, and we'll take another garden tour here in a few weeks and show you how things are progressing. So what are you growing in your tiny spaces in your gardens? Like, subscribe, tell me what you're doing, and come and join us over at Delectable Tiny Gardens, at the meeting place for people building food and herb resiliency in tiny spaces. Start where you're at and come and join us.